Calmness is not weakness. It is the force the universe answers to. Stay calm and watch the universe bring what you deserve. You hear that and something in you resists. You were taught to hustle, to grip tighter, to show up anxious and loud so the world could see you're trying. That strategy has a logic. Movement equals progress, noise equals proof. But there is another logic, quieter and older, that operates beneath the noise. It answers to a different posture. It answers to calm. Imagine two hands. One is a fist, fingers white with pressure, knuckles hard. The other is an open palm, soft, expectant, relaxed. The fist repels, it hoards. The palm invites. The first demands, the second allows. The world responds differently to each. This is not mysticism dressed in slogans. It is a practical law of living energy. The state you hold broadcasts a signal into the field that others, people, opportunities, timing, read and respond to. Here's the promise of this message. When you cultivate calm as a discipline, not an occasional escape, your thoughts and feelings begin to align. That alignment broadcasts a clearer signal. You will notice that doors that were once closed begin to ease open, not because you forced them, but because your quiet coherence made you readable to the right currents. Stay calm and watch the universe bring what you deserve. If this resonates, tap like and subscribe. Let this channel be a steady reminder to practice presence. Now, let's lay out what we mean by calm. Calmness here is not the absence of feeling. It is not a frozen, passive state where nothing moves. Calm is a poised energy. It is a field within you where thought and feeling are in cooperation. Your mind can imagine without becoming frantic. Your heart can desire without trembling. When the two are in resonance, you become steady. Nothing about this requires you to stop taking action. Rather, it shifts the quality of your action from frantic to inspired. Think of thought as the electrical part of your inner life. A click flash, a direction, a command. Think of emotion as the magnetic part, the pull, the attractor, the tone that lingers. When those two work at cross purposes, when your thoughts are racing, I must get this now, while your heart is uncertain or fearful, you send mixed signals. Mixed signals are messy. They confuse opportunity. They look like a radio station trying to play two songs at once. The result is noise. But when thought and heart tune to the same note, something changes. The pattern of your inner state becomes coherent. Scientists use words like coherence to describe similar phenomena in physiology, the heart and brain interacting in synchronized rhythms. But you don't need a lab to feel it. You feel it when you are certain without the chatter, when your breath is steady and your chest carries a quiet openness. That feeling is breathable. That feeling is readable. This readable field does something practical. It clarifies your actions. It makes your intuition sharper, not louder, but truer. Synchronicity begins to show up not as grand miracles, but as the seam of life aligning, the right person at the right moment, a sentence in an email that answers a question you hadn't finished asking, a door you didn't know existed stepping aside. These are not guarantees. They are invitations and confirmations that a refined internal posture often precedes external alignment. You can test this today in the smallest of ways. For a single minute, notice your shoulders. Are they lifted like coiled springs? Check your jaw. Are your teeth clenched? Rest your hands on your knees and feel whether the fingers are tense. Then soften them. Drop 3 breaths into your belly, long enough that you feel the belly expand and relax. Open your palm. Let it face the world as if waiting to receive. Hold that for 30 seconds and notice what shifts inside. The shift will be subtle. It may be only less tightness around the eyes. That is enough. That is the beginning of a different broadcast. Urgency, force, looks and feels different. It's a narrowing. You know it. The breath gets quick, shallow, attention tunnels, your voice tightens. You make decisions faster, louder, and often more brittle. Physically, urgency raises the shoulders, hardens the jaw, and draws the belly in. Psychologically, it creates a sense of scarcity. If I don't get it now, I will lose it. That scarcity tone slams the door on creativity and nuance. It makes you appear less trustworthy to yourself and to others. There is a confusion in our culture that equates visible struggle with authenticity. We think if we are not visibly exhausted and shouting, we are not working hard enough. That belief keeps a lot of people in the clenched fist model. They push, they prod, they try to manufacture outcomes. But pushing is often indistinguishable from panic, and panic muffles your intelligence. It compresses your bandwidth. Imagine a river. The river flows, but when you stand in it and begin to paddle, you're fighting the current. Your energy is consumed by resistance. The boat goes nowhere. Now imagine a sailboat on that same river. The sailor trims the sail to the wind. They don't paddle, they adjust. They respond. Calmness is trimming your inner sail to the subtle wind of circumstance. You still move. You are still engaged. The quality is different. You are less the laborer and more the navigator. We return here to the metaphors because they are anchors. Hands, river, sailboat, magnet. Use them as mental tools. When you notice a tightening, picture your hand turning into a fist. Mentally unclench it. When you face a problem that tempts force, ask yourself, am I paddling against the river or am I adjusting the sail? This question alone will slow the immediacy of your response in a way that allows a better action to arise. Let me be clear, this is not an apology for complacency. Calm does not mean inaction. There are moments that require decisive movement, moments that demand boldness. The difference lies in the source of that movement. Desperate action is noisy, scattered, and often serves anxiety. Inspired action is clear, focused, and comes from a center that has been maintained through breath and attention. One sounds like a shout, the other like a bell struck in a quiet room, small, clear, and carrying. There is a practical marker to know which is which. When action arises from desperation, it feels rushed and draining. When action arises from inspiration, it feels sized to the task. You may still sweat and you may still exert effort, but there is a quality of ease underlying it. The body is not collapsing into contraction. The jaw is not clenched. The breath remains available. Take a moment and try a short embodied practice that will show you the difference. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Breathe deliberately. Inhale to a slow count of 4, hold for a moment, exhale to a slow count of 6. Let the exhale be slightly longer than the inhale. As you do this, scan for tension in the shoulders and neck. Soften them. Keep the palms open on your body. Literal open palms touching the living rhythm of your breath. That simple posture recalibrates nervous system tone and shifts you from fight or flight toward engagement from a calm center. Do this practice before a hard conversation, before making an important email, or when you notice yourself spiraling into scarcity. Repeat it often. Repetition is the secret in plain sight. Calmness is a muscle. It grows with discipline. Now imagine a magnet. The magnet does not shout to attract the metal. It simply emits a field. The metal moves when it is within range. Similarly, your state sends out a field. When your internal magnet is chaotic, thoughts flailing, emotions rattled, the field is noisy and the attraction weak. When your internal magnet is coherent, it subtly draws circumstances that are harmonious with your pattern. Again, not guaranteed, not literal cause and effect in a mechanical sense, but an observable correlation. People who maintain an internal coherence tend to report more timely help, clearer insight, and opportunities that fit. Stories help clarify this without turning them into promises. Imagine a woman named Leela, an ordinary example. She felt stuck in her work for years, constantly chasing validation in frantic bursts. More meetings, more emails, more followers. Then one season she committed small changes. Daily breath practice, a morning pause where she opened her palm and set a simple intention, and a choice to respond rather than to react. She didn't quit her job overnight. She didn't stop trying. She refined her posture. After some months, the quality of the openings she received shifted. A former client sent a casual message that turned into a collaboration. A neighbor introduced her to someone whose skills complemented hers. None of these were dramatic miracles. They were small, useful alignments that together created momentum. Leela described it as the world finding a way to give me what I actually needed rather than what I was anxiously asking for. That is synchronicity, the seams of daily life aligning with your refined state. You can create that seam. You can begin to, but it requires a little re-education of the body. Your nervous system has learned to react in certain ways. It will default to those habits because habits conserve energy. We must treat calmness as training rather than a one-time fix. Here are 2 immediate anchors you can use repeatedly throughout your day. They are minimal and practical, the kind of interventions you'll actually do when life gets messy. The first is breath with an open hand. When you feel unraveling, put one hand on your heart and extend the other palm outward or upward as if to receive. Breathe slowly for 3 full cycles, counting gently to 3 on the inhale and 4 on the exhale. Keep the fingers relaxed. That outward palm is a body language cue for both you and the world. I am open, I am not clutching. The gesture sends a message to your nervous system that it is allowed to ease. The second anchor is a micro-pause between impulse and action. We live as if every thought must be acted on. Practice inserting a 2-second pause before replying to a message, before accepting a meeting, before immediately trying to fix something. Use that pause to notice the tone behind the urge. Is it scarcity? Is it fear? Or is it curiosity? The pause is a tiny discipline with outsized returns. It interrupts the conditioned loop of forcing and creates a space where something wiser can appear. Do these two things, open palm breath and micropause, twice a day for a week. Notice the subtle changes. Maybe conversations will land differently. Maybe your to-do list will feel more navigable. Maybe opportunities will look less like frantic lifelines and more like doors you can step through. Again, these are not guarantees. They are ways to recalibrate the field you inhabit. There is also a common internal script you must learn to notice. It sounds like, if I don't do it now, someone else will, or this is my only chance. Those lines are the voice of urgency. They tighten the shoulders and constrict seeing. Whenever that voice speaks, label it softly and come back to breath. Naming the pattern diminishes its power. It is a form of meta-awareness that creates enough distance to choose differently. You may object, I have deadlines, responsibilities, people depending on me. Having urgency in certain situations does not make you a bad person. The point is not to eliminate all urgency. It is to learn to recognize when urgency is authentic and when it's a default reaction to fear. Those two often masquerade as the same thing, but require different responses. Authentic urgency can be harnessed without collapsing into panic. Default urgency requires the recalibration practices we've been discussing. Now let's look at intuition and synchronicity in a slightly deeper way. Intuition is not a mystical whisper you either have or don't have. It is a pattern recognition mechanism working quietly. When your internal field is coherent, you can sense subtler patterns. Your antennae catch small clues earlier, an offhand remark that later proves useful, or a fleeting thought that becomes an important idea. Synchronicity is the field's way in answering. It is not magic handed down from nowhere. It is the interplay of your refined state, the social network of people and events you are already part of, and timing. To cultivate that refined state, you will benefit from consistency. Small practices repeated matter far more than occasional extremes. The body learns in increments. The heart remembers patterns. Repetition builds a substrate of calm that becomes available under stress. Imagine training a muscle. The first time you lift a weight, your hands tremble. After weeks, you lift with more confidence and less effort. Calmness is exactly like that. Start small, be steady. You will also notice that calmness is contagious. When you enter a room with an open palm posture and a softened breath, people unconsciously respond. Conversations slow, eyes soften, cooperation increases. This is not manipulation, it's kinesthetics. Your field affects other fields. A leader who can hold calm in the middle of crisis becomes an anchor for others. Their calm creates room for creativity in the group. You can be that person even without title or rank. Anyone can practice and radiate this quality. There are pitfalls to watch for. One is spiritual bypassing, the idea that calmness is a disguise for avoidance. Calmness used to avoid accountability is not true calm. True calm engages. It looks at reality clearly and then chooses action from that clear seeing. Another pitfall is using calmness as justification for inaction when action is required. Remember, calm is a quality of action, not its absence. By now you may be wondering about practical signs that your field is getting clearer. Aside from anecdotal shifts in opportunity, there are physiological markers that correlate with coherent states. You may notice steadier breathing, fewer jaw clinches, softer shoulders, and a sense of spacious attention. Socially, you may notice fewer reactive conversations and more meaningful meetings. Emotionally, you may find that disappointments land without catastrophizing. You feel disappointment, observe it, and respond without tumbling. We will explore specific embodied sequences in more depth, but here is one more practice you can use right now that ties many of these ideas together, a short ritual to anchor your day. It takes under 2 minutes. Stand or sit comfortably. Place one palm over your heart and one palm open in front of you, lifted to chest level. Breathe in for 3 counts. As you inhale, imagine drawing energy into your center, gentle, nourishing. Exhale for 4 counts and imagine releasing 2 habitual needs, the need to control outcomes and the need to prove worth through busyness. Repeat this cycle 3 times. After the 3rd exhale, whisper to yourself, I am open to what is appropriate for me. Keep your palms soft. Smile with the eyes if you can. This small practice is a daily recalibration, a way to send a clean signal into your field before the day scatters you. There is a discipline here and also an art. Discipline gives you the structure: breath, pause, open palm. The art is learning when to act and when to wait, when to trim the sail and when to weather vane. Over time, you develop a personal grammar of how you show up, your pace, your tone, your habitual gestures. Pay attention to that grammar. It is who you are broadcasting into the world. Let's pause in the story of how this unfolds in life. Imagine someone preparing for an interview. They practice their answers, but beyond content, they practice posture. Slow breath, open palm on the table, a soft face. During the interview, the other person leans in. The questions become fresher. A collaboration later emerges. Now imagine the alternative: frantic rehearsing, rigid jaw, racing breath. The interviewer notices the tension. The conversation closes faster. The outer circumstances differ in part because the inner field broadcasts different information. This is the kind of shift you can create intentionally. You can become the person who draws complementary circumstances, not by forcing them into existence, but by calibrating your field so you become a clear receiver and sender. You may be wondering about the timeline. How long until you see change? There is no single answer. Sometimes change arrives quickly, an alignment in days. Other times it unfolds over months. What matters is that you keep practicing. The cumulative effect is powerful. It quietly reshapes how the world responds to you. Small habitual adjustments compound. The river's course can change gradually through steady, gentle erosion. And yet there is a deeper piece that we haven't touched fully here, one that I will speak to more soon. It is the way your identity and desire align with the opportunities you attract. It is possible to cultivate calm and still chase things that are not really yours, projects that mismatch your deepest gifts, relationships that flirt with convenience rather than resonance. Calmness improves reception, but it does not guarantee the wisdom to discern fit. That discernment requires honest reflection, values, and a willingness to let go of what no longer fits. Before we go further into exercises and stories, before we map how to turn steady practice into consistent life results, there is an important internal question to sit with. What does what you deserve mean to you? Many people hear that phrase and imagine a ledger: success, recognition, wealth.
But deserving in this context is less about social trophies and more about energetic justice, that you receive conditions and opportunities coherent with your nature, with your contribution, and with what you have cultivated inside. It may include external achievements. It will always include an inner alignment, a life where outer forms match inner truth. We will explore the contours of that truth, how to tell the difference between craving and legitimate calling, in a moment. For now, rest with the practice of presence. Reinforce the two simple anchors: open palm breath and the micropause. Make them portable. Use them in the grocery line, in meetings, before emails, in traffic. Each use is a sending of a refined signal. I want to leave you with one compact image to carry through the next section, because images work as little lodestars in the mind. Picture a sailboat on a river at dawn. There is a wind. It is not a gale. The sailor does not pound the oars. They trim the sail, feel the breath of the air, and steer with gentle corrections. The boat moves with manageable speed. The journey requires attention, but not friction. Your inner posture is the trimming of that sail. Soon, we will take that image forward into a sequence of embodied practices and deeper stories: how the river rearranges, how people in your orbit shift, and how to refine your sense of deservedness so that you stop calling for things that don't fit and start making room for what truly does. But before we step into those details, breathe. Notice your hands. Feel whether they are open or whether they have tightened into the old familiar fist. Stay calm. Stay open. Allow. Stay calm and watch the universe bring what you deserve. You have the image now, the sail trimmed, the hand open. Keep that. Let it sit as we move into practice, refinement, and the quieter work of deciding what you truly want, so the world can show up appropriately. Deservedness is a word that carries weight. For many people, it conjures tally marks and scoreboard thinking, a ledger of effort and reward. Here, deservedness is simpler and kinder. It means receiving conditions that are coherent with what you are giving and who you are becoming. It is less about entitlement and more about alignment. Ask yourself a different question. Is this wanting aligned with the shape of my life, my gifts, and the person I intend to be? If the answer is yes, then calmness becomes the container that helps the world find alignment with you. Discernment is a muscle as much as calmness is. Here are 4 short questions to guide that discernment when an opportunity appears. Use them as a quick internal checklist. No more than 30 seconds each. Does this feel like traction or like rescue? Traction lands as a steady pull forward. Rescue shows up as a loud promise to fix an inner lack. Does saying yes expand my capacity, or does it require me to contract and become someone I don't want to be?
Is this opportunity coherent with my values and long-term rhythm, or does it lean on short-term noise? 4. After imagining myself accepting, do I feel enlivened or depleted? These questions are not moral judgments. They are calibrations. Calmness gives you the clarity to answer honestly. Daily architecture matters. If calmness is a field you send into the world, then how you spend the first and last 30 minutes of your day will significantly shape that field. Here are 2 short morning-evening rituals that together take under 10 minutes and may reshape the day's tone over weeks. Morning calibration, 3 to 5 minutes. Sit upright. Place one hand over your heart and the other in front of you, palm up, as if greeting the day. Breathe in for 3 counts, out for 4. On the inhale, think of drawing attention inward. On the exhale, imagine releasing one tiny need to control. Say softly, either aloud or inside, "I will meet what fits with clarity." Keep the palms soft. Stand or move gently into your day. Evening reconciliation, 3 minutes. Before bed, recount 3 interactions that felt aligned and 1 that didn't. Say thank you for the aligned atoms. For the misaligned one, name the feeling without story. "I noticed tension," and place it aside. Finish with a breath pattern. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6. This evening practice begins to rewire how the nervous system makes meaning of the day, so that tension isn't amplified overnight. Micro practices matter, because they are portable and repeatable. We already discussed the open palm breath and the 2-second pause. Let me add a few more that are simple and applicable. The soft face reset. When you feel escalation, soften your eyes and jaw. Let the corners of the mouth soften, even if you don't smile. This tiny facial release signals safety to the nervous system and often changes the trajectory of conversation without a word. The anchor phrase. Choose a 2 or 3 word phrase that pulls you back. Steady and open. Breathe and trust. Or soft, present, clear. Say it mentally when you feel pulled into force. Keep it neutral and practical. The pre-send ritual for messages. Before you hit send on an email or message born of urgency, stop. Breathe twice. Ask, is this message coming from scarcity or clarity? If scarcity, wait until clarity returns. Real life will test these practices, and the tests are the point. There will be moments when you must move fast, and there will be moments when the world seems to demand a clenched fist. Learn to distinguish between deadlines that are real and the narratives you tell yourself that make everything urgent. That discernment is learned by doing. Stories help us see the texture of these shifts. Consider Matteo, a product designer who believed frantic visibility was the path to recognition. He posted constantly, responded to every comment within minutes, and accepted projects because they kept his inbox full. He was busy, but the opportunities he wanted, deep collaborations, meaningful projects, never materialized. He felt exhausted and mystified. Matteo started small. He practiced the open palm breath before responding to messages. He instituted a 30-minute window in the morning for focused work, during which he closed communication channels. He noticed his thinking settled. Within weeks, his proposals became clearer and more considered. One potential collaborator noticed the difference in tone and approach and requested a conversation that led to a substantial partnership. Matteo didn't force the partnership into being. He became a clearer signal, and the network around him supplied a fitting response. The change didn't erase all friction. It gave him better traction. Then there's Sarah, who used calmness as a way to avoid hard conversations. She had learned breathing techniques and could enter a serene internal state, but she used that serenity as proof that conflict should be ignored. That was not true calm. True calm engages. Sarah eventually used the soft face and open hand practices to prepare herself for difficult conversations. She would breathe, get clear on her boundary, and then speak from that center. The result was not a neat, frictionless relationship, but it was honest, and it created mutual respect. Calmness does not excuse avoidance. It equips courageous presence. You will notice patterns in how calm shows up. For some people, it's steady breathing and soft hands. For others, it's a quiet sharpening of focus, an inner alignment that looks deceptively like concentration. For many, the first change is not a flood of opportunities, but a subtle reduction in the noise that has been confusing the field. That reduction alone allows small openings to appear and be recognized. Synchronicity tends to feel like a series of small confirmations. You call someone and a useful partner happens to be on their lunch break. You write a note and weeks later an unexpected introduction appears. These alignments seem minor in isolation, but compound into momentum. They are not proof of cosmic favoritism. They are signs that you and your context are speaking a more intelligible language to one another. A caution: keep humility at the center. Calmness can lead to a mistaken belief that you are in complete control, or that the universe owes you a tidy return. It does not. The field you cultivate may bring what is coherent with your pattern, but the forms that answer that pattern can be different than you imagined. If you insist that your hand be filled in exactly the way you expected, you may miss the better-fitting gift that looks different. Practice curiosity about the shape of what arrives. Let's speak briefly about resistance. The old habit of gripping tight has its own logic, perceived safety and control. When you release that habit, you may experience anxiety. That is normal. The nervous system treats reduced grip as potential danger, because grip has been your strategy. Be kind in the unlearning. Use repetition rather than expectation. Rest in the understanding that when the body learns a new routine, open palm, slowed breath, micro-pauses, it requires many rehearsals before it becomes reflex. There will be slip-ups. Notice them, treat them as data, and return to the practice without moralizing. Opportunities often require both calm and courage. To draw something appropriate to you may mean turning toward vulnerability, asking for an introduction, applying for a job, or sharing a project idea. Calmness is not a substitute for initiative. It refines it. When action emerges from alignment, it may feel risky, but it will be a risk taken from steadiness rather than from collapse. That kind of risk often lands with more ease and efficacy because your transmission is clear. When you face setback, use a recalibration sequence. It takes under 5 minutes and helps break the narrative of failure into practical steps. 1. Name the fact without story. An opportunity closed. 2. Notice the body. Where is the contraction? Shoulders, jaw, belly? 3. Do 3 slow breaths with palm on the heart and open hand facing out. 4. Ask a neutral question. What would be the next smallest right step? And write it down. 5. Make 1 small commitment. Send 1 email, ask 1 question that is sized to the task. This sequence turns defeat into data and preserves the field you are cultivating. It also demonstrates a critical principle. Calmness doesn't mean you don't heat up. It means you have structures to bring you back into usable states quickly. There is also the social dimension. Relationships respond to your field. When you shift from frenetic to composed, people around you tend to mirror that tone. This has consequences. You may find that some relationships that thrived on drama fade. That is not failure, it's alignment. Other relationships may deepen because they can now meet you where you are. When you find a person who resonates with your study broadcast, the interactions will feel generative rather than draining. Now, practical advice for a week-long experiment you can run to test these ideas. It's manageable and evidence-based. Small interventions, repeated and observed. A 7-day calm experiment. Day 1, baseline. Note 3 moments when you felt urgent and 3 moments when you felt steady. Record them briefly. Day 2, morning calibration. Do the morning 3-minute ritual. Day 3, micro-pause practice. Insert a 2-second pause before 1 decision every hour. Day 4, soft face reset. Use the soft face technique in at least 3 conversations. Day 5, pre-send ritual. Delay sending messages that feel urgent until after a 2-breath check. Day 6, evening reconciliation. Practice the 3-minute evening ritual. Day 7, reflection. Compare notes to day 1. Note any differences in tone, responses, or opportunities.
The point of the week is not to produce overnight miracles, but to create data, evidence of how the field shifts under disciplined attention. Repeat the week as needed. The compound effect is the real test. Beyond the individual practices, consider the environments you inhabit. Environments speak back through cues, emails that ping incessantly, leaders who reward frantic visibility, cultures that mistake exhaustion for commitment. You can recalibrate your inner field without changing everything externally, but sometimes environmental shifts amplify your practice. If possible, set boundaries, designated email check times, quiet windows for deep work, or meetings anchored in agendas that reward clarity over theater. These structural changes make the practice sustainable. Another practical skill is communication with others about your new rhythm. You don't need to perform calm for approval. You can explain simply, I respond best when I take a moment to think. I will get back to you within X hours. This is not arrogance, it's stewardship of your clarity. Most people will respect a calm boundary. Those who don't may reveal themselves as misaligned to your aims. As you practice, keep checking your internal definition of deserve. Riches, recognition, and comfort are valid wants, but allow the metric to include inner coherence. How much does an outcome fit the person you are trying to become? A job with a higher salary may not be coherent if it requires you to become someone you are not. A relationship that looks desirable on paper may not be coherent with your need for mutual respect. Calmness helps you discern fit. Discernment helps you prioritize. There will be moments of impatience. You will feel the pull to rush. Use the metaphor of the magnet and the metal. A magnet attracts not by panicked movement, but by holding its field steady. If you shake the magnet frantically, the metal may only bounce away. Hold steady. Keep the practice simple and return to it when the noise rises. A practical module for decision-making from Calmness. Use this when a choice feels urgent but you want to move with clarity. 1. Pause and take 3 breaths with hand on heart. 2. Visually imagine both paths for 30 seconds, the immediate yes and the immediate no. 3. Notice bodily signals. Does one image cause expansion in the chest and throat or contraction? 4. Ask the why will this matter in 6 months question. Let the answer arise. 5. Decide on the next physical step. Sometimes it's sleep on it, sometimes it's send the note. This module takes less than 5 minutes, but often prevents costly impulsive actions. Now, about leadership and group dynamics. When you model calmness in a team setting, you create safety that can amplify creativity. Teams under pressure often mirror the loudest person. If you can hold an open hand posture and a steady voice when tension rises, you will often become the anchor.
That does not mean suppressing accountability or hope for outcome. It means holding standards from steadiness. The difference is palpable. Teammates are more likely to speak up, share honest feedback, and take responsibility when the field is not dominated by frantic energy. There are cultural lenses to consider. Some cultures valorize hustle, others value restraint. Your practice should respect and adapt to social context while staying true to your internal calibration. This is nuanced work, not formulaic. Use empathy and strategic sensitivity. You are not here to enforce calm on others. You're here to become a living example of what a steady field can create. Return now to the metaphors that have carried us: hand, river, sailboat, magnet. Use them as check-ins. Each time you notice tension, run a quick mental rehearsal. If my hand is a fist, unclench it. Am I paddling against the river or trimming my sail? Is my magnet noisy or coherent? These many rehearsals are cognitive anchors that often produce immediate shifts in posture. A final practical sequence you can use before an important moment, a conversation, presentation, or decision, combines many elements we have discussed. It takes no more than 2 minutes. Stand or sit upright. Place one hand over your heart and the other open in front of you. Breathe in for 3, out for 5. As you breathe, feel weight in your feet, a connection to the ground. On the third cycle, visualize the outcome you want in the broadest sense: clarity, integrity, a useful outcome, not the specific result. Relax the jaw, soften the eyes. Whisper to yourself, "I will act from clarity." Then proceed. This sequence creates an inner posture that is practical and transmissible. It does not guarantee a particular result. It improves the quality of your action. We began with the promise, stay calm and watch the universe bring what you deserve. That promise is lived in repetition, in tiny rituals, and in honest discernment. The universe responds to the clarity of pattern, not to the volume of demand. When you cultivate a coherent field, you become a clearer receiver and sender. People notice. Opportunities arrive that are more fitting. You may feel less anxious and more capacious. All of this is gradual and relational. There is a spiritual texture to this practice that is worth noting. Many traditions call this alignment clarity, surrender, or right action. The common thread is the recognition that force and fear narrow perception. Calmness expands it. That expansion allows new material to be seen and used. If you prefer scientific language, heart-brain coherence and nervous system regulation describe similar phenomena in measurable ways. If you prefer poetic language, the image of the open palm and the sailboat speaks to the same human truth. Use the language that carries you. Remember to be compassionate with yourself. Changing habitual contraction takes time. It is not a failure if you grip. It is simply a chance to notice and return. Celebrate small wins: a conversation that landed better, a meeting where you were steady, a night without the usual rumination. These are real indicators of progress. As things shift, keep refining what deserve means to you. Allow it to include inner justice, the alignment of your gifts and your capacity to contribute, rather than only external reward. The world may respond with many different forms of support: relationships, income, opportunities, or simply a clearer sense of purpose. These are all valid signs that the field is cooperating with you. Now, for the close, return to the image with me. Picture again the sailboat on the river, the palm open, the magnet pulsing quietly. You do not need to become someone else to be readable to the right currents. You only need to practice the posture that aligns your inner broadcast. When your thoughts and feelings tune together, when your breath steadies and your jaw unlocks, you send an intelligible pattern into the field. The field answers not out of obligation, but out of resonance. This is the last practical invitation. Choose one of the anchors we've discussed and commit to it for 30 days. It might be the morning calibration, the micropause, or the pre-send ritual. Track the changes you notice, no matter how small. After 30 days, reflect. You will likely see differences in how you feel and how the world responds. Keep what works, adjust what doesn't, and remain curious. Stay calm, stay open, allow. Stay calm and watch the universe bring what you deserve. If you want more guided practices to build this calm muscle, subscribe and watch the next video.